Alright, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon everybody. Here is an explanation about exercise 61, and difficulty at exercise 61 is that we need to know which number we need to multiply with the other one. A very important information is what is in the yellow box, because there you will find some different measurements what they were using in the old Dutch. A long time ago, wine was measured using the old Dutch unit of the volume of aim. One aim contains 4 anchors. The unit anchor is still used in the wine trade. 1 anchor of wine is enough for fill 45 wine bottles. On the right you can find more information on the old Dutch unit of volume. So in the yellow box, 1 aim is 4 anchors, 1 anchor is 45 bottles of wine, 1 anchor is 60 stope, 1 stope is 2 minglen, 1 minglen is 2 pint, 1 pint is 0.6063 liters, and we need to work with those numbers. And question A is, how many bottles of wine can you fill with 2,5 aims? Alright, if we know that 1 aim is 4 anchors, and if 1 anchor is 45 bottles, you can also calculate your 2,5 aims. So exercise A, how many bottles of wine can you fill with 2,5 aims? So total bottles is 2,5 times 4. Now why? Because of the first part of the information, this one. Yeah. So if we know the total anchors, 2,5 times 4 is 10, and if we multiply this one by 45, and why by 45? Because we know 1 anchor can fit 45 bottles of wine, and then you know your answer. So the answer is 45 bottles. Alright, so that's exercise A. Exercise B, how many anchors are 9 bottles of wine? Now they gave you the information there that one anchor is 45 bottles. But we want to know what is 9 bottles. Now, how do we come from 45 to 9? Let's divide with 5. Now, if we divide 1 with 5, then you get 0,2 anchor. Or you can say 1 over 5 anchor, because even that's 9 bottles. Alright? Exercise C, how many aim are 9 bottles of wine? Now that's still a combination of those two, because in question B we know that 9 bottles is exactly the same as 1 over 5 anchor, or 0,2 anchor. Yeah? But in the first line we said that 1 aim is exactly the same as 4 anchors. But I want to know how many is 1 over 5 anchor. Yeah, because in the first part we already know, if we talk about 1 over 5 anchor, we talk about 9 bottles. Now, the question is, how do we come to from 4 anchor to 1 over 5? Now maybe it's wise to make your intermediate step 1 anchor. There you go. Because then you divide it by 4. So that will be 1 over 4 A. So 1 over 4 aim is exactly the same as 1 anchor. If we want to know 1 over 5 anchor, then it's very easily to go from 1 to 1 over 5 is multiplying with 1 over 5, because 1 times 1 over 5 is 1 over 5. So we need to multiply 1 over 4 times 1 over 5. Now, what was, if you have two fractions, 1 over 4 times 1 over 5, numerator times the numerator, so that's 1, and denominator times the denominator, so that's 20. So it's 1 over 20 A. And that's your answer. Alright, so that was exercise C. Then exercise D. How many stope are 50 bottles of wine? Alright, so they just said that one anchor is 60 stopes. But we also had that one anchor is 45 bottles of wine, which means that 45 bottles is exactly the same as 60 stope. Correct? So they want to know how many stopes are 15 bottles. So 50 bottles. How many stopes is it? Now, to go from 45 to 50, we can divide it by 3. So you even need to do 60 divided by 3. So that's 60 over 3 stope. And 60 over 3 is 5, 1 over 3 stope. There you go. So that's the answer. Alright. Exercise E. How many Minglen are 50 bottles of wine? So again, maybe a good combination of exercise D. So how many Minglen are 50 bottles of wine? So they just told us that one stope is 2 Minglen. So one stope is 2 Minglen. So if we know that 15 bottles is exactly the same as 5 over 3 stope, we can also multiply the 5 over 3 by 2. So 5 over 3 stope was 50 bottles. One stope was 2 Minglen. So if we want to know how many Minglen is 50 bottles, then you just do 5, 1 over 3 multiplied by 2 is 10, 2 over 3 Minglen. And that's the answer from E. Then the last question, F. How many liters is 1 aim? So we need to go from 1 aim, there you go, to liters. Now, what do we need to do? We know that 1 aim is exactly the same as 4 anchor, right? Now, 4 anchor is exactly the same as 4 times 16 stopes. So that's 64. We know that 1 stope was 2 Minglen, so 64 stope. We need to do 2 times 64, so that's 128. Mangolin. 1 Mangolin is 2 pints. Alright. So 128 Mangolin is 128 times 2 is 256 pint. And we know that 1 pint is 0,063 liters. So 2,56 pint is 256 multiplied with 0,6063 liters is equal to 155,2 liters. Alright, so 1 is exactly the same as 155,2 liters. Now what I just did is to use the information what they gave you. So 1 is exactly the same as 4 anchors. 4 anchors is 4 times 60 is that amount stoke. So 64 stoke is exactly the same as 128 Mangolin. 128 Mangolin is exactly the same as 256 pints. And 256 pints is exactly the same as 155,2 liters. Difficult exercise because you need to use the correct numbers, but I think you can do it. So good luck with the rest of the exercises.